Good morning. You're listening to Central Wisconsin's 24-hour information station, AM 1320 WFHR. It's time now for the Morning Magazine, brought to you by Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing.
Welcome, everyone, to Morning Magazine for this October 27th, 2021, 10:07 on the clock, and you have your host, James J. Malouf, here at 10:30. Today, we're going to speak with our great friends from the ODC. We have Carla and Paula joining us. Right now, not only do we have our good friend Kev from the Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, and good morning to them, but we have Lance Pliml here, Wood County Board Chairman. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, James. Great to be here again.
Good to have you with us. How you been?
I've been great. How about you?
Doing good, and good to hear, Lance. Very good to hear. We have a couple of things from listeners we're going to bring to the table today, which I thought would be kind of fun. But first up, you've done this really nice thing. Last couple of times you've come by, you've given us some tickets for the Britons that are going to be coming around for us to give away, and in part because we wanted to encourage people to look into being on the board at Crime Stoppers.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about, obviously, was the need for members to the board of directors for the Crime Stoppers program. It's an important program. It's helped us solve a number of crimes. It's a way with about an hour commitment a month, maybe an hour and a half, that you can participate as a board member. We're seeking applications for those positions right now. We do have members who term out over time, and I was lucky enough to sit on the committee that established that program many, many years ago. I don't actually remember how many it is, James. Probably 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I know the sheriff comes in, probably touches on this a little bit. But one of the things we do every year as a fundraiser is this concert. This year it happens to be the Britons. It's at the PAC. It's tomorrow night, and James has a few more tickets he's going to give away here today. We gave away a few last time. But the program's really been instrumental in working within our schools, within the community, to assist law enforcement. And it's been an extremely beneficial program, to the county, to the residents. And, all we're hoping to do tomorrow is fill up the PAC. The tickets have been pre-sold. We're just hoping that everybody who has a ticket shows up, and those of you call in and maybe win a couple of those from James later.
We've been giving them away, and one of the things we've been doing is asking for your favorite Beatles song to throw in to win the tickets. One of the things we've found out through that is how much people really do care about Crime Stoppers. It's interesting that we were talking Beatles, and that comes up, but it's nice to be able to get into this and to see a community that cares about this subject. One of the questions that's I've gotten from people is how much of a time commitment it is to be on the board. Imagine that's a little bit here and there.
It can vary a little bit. It's generally about an hour to an hour and a half a month, once a month. When we started this program, to get this off the ground, I remember the original board of directors, and I don't want to start naming them because I'll miss some. But, we'd be out in the community running brat fries, selling 50-50 raffle tickets all over, trying to raise enough money to pay those anonymous rewards that we give out, to those people who provide tips. We've reached a point in time, through our fundraising success and the programs we've put in place that is not one of the things that you need to do. I mean, we set direction, we determine budgets, we determine the amount of payouts as we get those tips come in through the local law enforcement agencies. The concert, the program that we do here is a large part of the fundraising that we do, but it's not something you as a board member have to do. We're not asking you to go out and knock on doors. There are the occasional events that we do, possibly at a school or maybe at the Central Wisconsin State Fair, where we'll have a booth set up, typically in conjunction with the sheriff's department or somebody, where if a board member wants to come and hand out some of those materials, that swag, that kids like, the carabiners, light up the, that opportunity exists, but that there's nothing required.
It's one of those things that has come up also because there are people out there looking for volunteer opportunities, looking for ways to put back into the community, and maybe they don't have the time or they need something that has a looser schedule. Something like this is, a board meeting is planned, when it's coming, so you're able to manage that a little bit more, and you're putting back in your community, you're helping out, you're being a part of things.
Yeah, and the reason we talk about it on shows like this is all of us have our own little sphere of influence or, those contacts that we have. And oftentimes you tend not to look, outside of that group. And that's why when we have the opportunity to use a medium like yours to get out in the community and let people know. And, this is somebody, basic requirement, I guess we'd like you to be 21 years of age or older, but that's about it. And pass a very minor background check. We don't want to provide tips to people who might otherwise be out
Yeah,
committing crimes,
yeah.
because the whole goal is to stop them.
Good call. Good call.
But
Yeah,
it's,
that seems like a good call.
I don't know that we've ever had anybody apply
It
who
also
hasn't
seems
been accepted.
Seems like you're really not dealing with a real smart criminal in there either.
Yes, exactly.
Not to say that there's such a thing as smart criminals, but now is there other boards looking for members? Are there other committees that are looking for people?
Typically from time to time, and I do have members of the community that call me up and say, if you're looking for somebody who, that you would like to see participate in various things that we do in the county, and they're generally ancillary boards to the main committees that the county board has. But there are library boards, there are workforce development, regional planning boards, there are areas we deal with, groundwater, land conservation. There's a number of places where we have citizen members. And it's always nice to have kind of that roster, that list of people that you can go to and say, hey, they've expressed interest. Or sometimes I see them show up at a county board meeting month after month and sitting in the back of the room, and I approach them. But oftentimes those people call me and say, if you have an opening in something like this, would you please consider me? So, my number's on the website, my email, text me, email me, give me a call if you're interested. And, we try to find slots for people that are interested. The best government is, typically is provided by those places that provide public input. And, I have an idea. 18 other board members have an idea. But with 74,000 people out there, there's a lot of good ideas floating around that we never hear. So that's why I like to take this opportunity to say, give us a call. Let us know what you're thinking. Or if you don't call me, call your supervisor. Those maps are online. Yeah. Or maybe you just know the person. You're very comfortable calling them.
I think, too, there's a number, more than ever, people want to share their opinion, want to be, my voice matters, this matters. But you got to put your money where your mouth is. You can't just sit there on your couch and scream at the TV. You really want to do something. Being a part of a committee, being a part of a board, that's where real change happens. Real change is not sexy. It takes time. It takes, legit details behind the scenes work. A lot of those things. It's very seldom is it something that is just a revolution or what have you or anything. Most things that take work, are behind the scenes. Yeah,
there's no bad ideas or stupid questions. In fact, I kind of laugh because the stupid question is usually the one I ask myself.
I'm with you there.
I'll sit, I'll be thinking about it at home, and I'll say it in the mirror, and it sounds pretty good, and then I say it in front of some people, and I go, that wasn't as good as I thought it was.
I think I do that on the air every day.
So, oftentimes, somebody will suggest something and go, we didn't just try that in the past. We've tried it recently, and there's a number of reasons why that won't work. But, my favorite question, I've repeated this on this show and others, is the question that I failed to ask at a meeting when somebody asked that of us. And then maybe even more so than that is the question I never even thought about asking, a direction that we never even took. And it always amazes me when we sit down, for instance, at the Counties Association, where we're looking at maybe a little more global issue than just Wood County. And what starts as something we'd never do ends up being at the top of the list of what we must do as it works its way through the process. So I'd encourage individuals out there in the community to participate at whatever level, to call, to have your input, show up at a committee meeting if you have opportunity. We do allow public comment on issues germane to what's on the agenda. You can't come in and talk about something that is totally irrelevant to county business.
Right.
But at the same time, if it is relevant, we'd like to hear it.
So that kind of leads into one of the main theme of questions that I got from listeners when I talked about, I'm going to have you on the air with us. And do you have any questions for Lance and that? Some people asked what you specifically do, but I think the overall thing was what the committee does, what the board does, what the purpose of the Wood County Board is.
Yeah, what I do reflects what the board does. I'm the county board chairman, which means I run the meeting. I have one vote like everybody else. Sometimes you get to, possibly set the agenda a little bit, but not as much as a committee does. The interesting part with county government, and it was a statement made by, somebody wiser than I, is if you haven't been involved with what the county provides as a service, you've probably had a pretty good life. Because some of the things we do as you walk down the hallway deal with people who, have a need, whether it be economic, somebody who's incarcerated. They're dealing with our legal system. They need assistance somewhere. So, we provide those services. But, it's kind of, somebody asked me the other day, what happens when I walk in the courthouse? And I said, well, you walk through security and the first thing on your right is the clerk's office. And it's kind of the heart and soul of the county. A lot of stuff happens there. Yeah. They're the clearinghouse for much of what goes on at board meetings and committee meetings. They provide DMV services. They do your passports. They do marriage licenses. All those things occur right in that office. You walk down the hall and I'm going to miss them, but you end up at UW Extension, and most of you are aware of what UW Extension provides, and there's just a wide range of services there. Most people equate it with 4-H and some of those programs, or I want to know what plant this is, but it goes far, far past that. You walk up the stairs and you get into our HR offices, IT, our dispatch centers, and then you get down to as you get to the end of the hall, you've got planning and zoning, which deals with all of those issues plus things you wouldn't necessarily think of, permitting, anything that has to do with water generally, land use, ends up down there. And you get to the third floor of the courthouse and you're into our judicial system, basically, judges, clerks of court, those types of offices, district attorney. And then we have the whole river block building that we filled up with our health departments, our parks department. So a wide range of things that you would think you might not think of. When I first came to the board, when I first ran for the board, I assumed there were probably 200 roughly county employees somewhere. And I thought, there's 50 people in the sheriff's department, maybe 50 in the highway department. And my thought was as vague as this was, there's got to be 100 others scattered somewhere. Right. Well, there's more like 650 to 700 employees because we run nursing homes. We run our facility up at Norwood, which is called the Northwood County Annex now. But the county is a 24/7 operation. If you call dispatch, if you have a 911 call, that goes through the county. The sheriff's department responds. Emergency management deals with, flooding, other issues. So it's wide ranging. The calls I do get that I think where people don't understand the separation of government and say, so-and-so didn't pick up my garbage this week. Well, counties typically don't provide garbage service. So I think it's important that you kind of learn what they do and what they don't do. And we've got a great website because we have a great IT department. Our different departments have their own websites. The health department, for instance, which has just been phenomenal, instrumental through this COVID pandemic we've been going through. Great. So I guess I direct you to the county website. Take a look. Start there and figure it out. WIRapids.org is a fantastic website, and you can find out many of the things that Lance was just talking about, along with plenty of other things. It's interesting to me because this all came up. I'm asking questions throughout probably from Thursday on into the weekend, but then I was a part of Day of Caring this weekend, and a child was asking his mother what F. Biden meant, because he didn't understand. And it came up from political science. And so she asked me right away, because I had already asked a couple of people, hey, if you got any questions for our board, ask me, let me know. I want to ask them. I'm going to have them in today. And to be honest, all my questions we've already covered, right now. So I want to hear from this shouldn't be my show. It should be the community's show. So what do you got for me? And immediately she's like, well, why is this a thing? And basically the political side thing. I'm like, well, are you sure that that's Lance's department? Are you sure that's really? And then it came into, well, you know what? I don't know what's his department. So that's where all this stemmed from. To your point of, I think that all of us need to take a little personal responsibility and understand our government, understand the levels of it, what departments do what, and don't be so quick to want to bark. Maybe, do a little homework first before you start directing whatever your feelings are in one direction or another, because you might be wasting your time, to be blunt about it. Yeah, James, that venom, local politics are not partisan politics. And you'd like to see that go away. And, the one thing that I just stress everywhere, in our own meetings, I stress it with our boards. Occasionally, if I have a supervisor or a department head that kind of gets out there on that limb, we might have that conversation about civility. And that's number one. If somebody comes to me and they want to discuss something, I had somebody the other day say to me, they were mad at me because I never get mad. Nice. Well, I do get mad, but I get over it, and I don't vocalize it. Right. You might be seething inside, and I can absolutely disagree with policy that comes down from a federal level, from the state level, sometimes our own policy. But you have to learn to deal with that, and you have to realize that screaming about it, the vulgarity, the other stuff doesn't really get it done. Now, do I wish gas prices were lower? I absolutely do, especially because it really affects the rural areas like us. Do I wish we didn't have cargo ships offshore? Yes, I do. Do I agree with everything both sides of an administration do where partisan politics take place? The answer is no, I don't agree with everything on both sides. But at the end of the day, if all you can do is yell and scream, you don't get real far.
Yeah.
I had one person used to call my home phone. I try to answer every call right away. And it always started with one of the words you were talking about earlier. And I had a conversation with the gentleman, and I said, I'll talk to you anytime you want, but my kids pick up those voicemails. My wife listens to them. Could we tone that down a little bit? And it kind of got funny over the years. That stopped. He still probably called me every week, but every conversation started with, you political pigs.
Jeez.
So we toned it down a lot, but then it
yeah.
got to be a civil conversation, and that even kind of became a joke. And what started out as a lot of vitriol really became a fruitful and useful conversation. Now, I didn't always agree with the person, but I'd listen because every now and then, no matter where somebody stands on an issue, there's usually some nugget that comes out of there that you intertwine into discussion later.
Yeah. More times than not, your argument, wherever you're coming from, and you may have a great place why you're angry or what have you, but when you use vulgarity, when you use these layers of speech, it gets lost. All we hear is barking. That's all people hear is barking.
Yeah,
your point is not made. So if you really do truly care about this cause, this point, wherever you're coming from, you got to treat people with the same respect you would expect, you would want. And I do find it interesting, especially that part of it, because you've been in this so much longer than I have been learning more about local politics. I've spent most of my life paying attention to national politics. I'm not surprised, and I don't think most national politicians would be, that they would get a call like that. That's one thing. But on a local level, where you expect it to be so much more personable, you're a citizen, you're a community member, you shop at the same places that guy who's calling you shops at, all that. I would like to think that we have some more class. But it seems like the more people I talk to, like yourself, that's always been the case. It not to say that there's a lot of those calls, but what have you. But there has always been that in politics, whether it's the local level or the national level.
Yeah, whether it be our board supervisors or other local officials, and whether it be the mayors, city alder people. I want to make sure I get my pronouns right now. Get in trouble there. There's one where you'll catch me. I'm not real big on the woke society's use of terms.
We're all learning.
I'm learning every day.
It changes every 5 minutes,
does.
so we all have a hard time keeping up.
But I have these conversations, occasionally with the mayor or a town board chairman. And I have the conversations in regard to something that may be going on, within their jurisdiction. And the reason we have those conversations is so I can answer the question. I can always refer, if you call me and it's something that we don't have, it's not our purview, I can always get you to the right person. But if I have to steer 15 people there, sometimes it's easier to talk to the mayor, for instance, and get the answer and tell the caller, it's not something that I deal with directly, but I spoke with the mayor last week, and I can give you the answer to that. So you don't have to make an additional phone call. Right. And I think all of us at every level, whether it be the town boards, the city councils, the mayors, county board supervisors, and really generally our legislators in this area who are open to phone calls, we'll try to get you that information so you don't have to make 15 phone calls. Right. If you're on a computer, the thing that drives me nuts is when you have to, when you need 40 clicks to get to where you want to get. Yeah. We try to make it as accessible as possible.
Do you, from your position where you're at, have you seen an increase of the negativity or a decrease, or is it just pretty much been the status quo?
We're pretty steady here. Status quo probably is a fairly good definition. It ebbs and flows.
Sure.
It depends what's going on. I mean, recently you had, locally, again, not a county issue, but locally, you had a movement to recall a school board. That got really hot. That went away. That issue never went anywhere. Right. You get issues right now they're dealing with the transportation utility, for instance, in the city, which has, been an issue that citizens have weighed in on, and then those business owners who are also residents of the community, but they've weighed in. So some of those issues become hot for a while, and then they kind of go into the background. But I don't think we have that, far right, far left, constant bickering and fighting. And I think part of that is the atmosphere that you try to, bring forth and try to show works the best, as we're just talking about. How do we create that civility? Come on in and let's talk. And I think if you listen, that old adage, you have 2 ears, 1 mouth.
Yeah.
Listen twice as much as you talk, and things probably work out.
And at a local level, you're much more likely to have one-on-one, face-to-face conversations, and people tend to lose that keyboard braveness when they're in front of somebody. So there's a little of that too that I'm hopeful for people like you in your position, our mayor, other people like that.
And this is just, this is a reality, and maybe it shouldn't be, but, I probably have more access to some of the legislators, some of the federal officials, some of the other people by virtue of the office that I hold. But if somebody talks to me and their point is salient and it makes sense, I'm having those conversations with those people, whether it be through our county directly or the counties association, or whether we're meeting with legislators. Now, keep in mind, the legislator might not have returned your call only because instead of having 70,000 constituents, he's got 250,000 constituents, and they just they physically can't get to them all. Like I said, I try to return every call every day, but frankly, if I have a whole bunch of them lined up and all of a sudden it's 10 o'clock at night, I'm probably not going to call your house till the next day. And I'm sure the legislators, the federal officials, they have people who work for them, who screen some of them. I know you'd like to speak to them directly. I am afforded that opportunity sometimes. So, maybe that's a good way to access or at least get your point across.
Yeah. I appreciate you always having these open conversations with us and everything you're doing for our community. So keep up the great work there, Lance. And appreciate you really bringing us these tickets. That was really cool.
Well, this is a big part of the community. It's, one of the things that we talk about, James, all the time is community safety. People want to walk out of their house, feel safe. We're going to do that in Wood County. And this is just another little, one of those areas where we can help that occur.
Yeah. Be listening during Over the Back Fence today. Seth will be giving away some more of these tickets to see the Britons. And if you want to know more about being a part of Crime Stoppers, you can go to woodcountycrimestoppers.com. That's woodcountycrimestoppers.com. Otherwise, you can find out more information by going to wirapids.org. Big thank you to Lance, always joining us. We look forward to talking to you next month already. And Kev and our friends at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, always appreciate you guys. We will be back with more Morning Magazine right here on AM 1320 WFHR.